Hello everyone, and especially MyPie101. This video is a response to her video, which was a response to my video. I'm going to take a little bit different approach in responding to you, but I did want to respond to one specific point that you raised, and you said that just because a man wants something doesn't mean he's going to get it. Now, while that is true, there's one advantage that men have over women in getting what they want. Since men are the pursuers, they're only going to pursue women who have what they want, whereas women, for the most part, can only choose from the men who pursue her. So it's true that a man may not get what he wants, but he can keep throwing darts until he hits a target. Also, men are in the minority, and that affords them a little bit more room to be picky. Okay, so if you're a woman and you have this list of things that you want, like, okay, I'm a college graduate, so I want a man who is a college graduate, then I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. And let's say you have 5 men pursuing you. Of those 5, none of them satisfy everything on your list. So do you start letting some of those things on that list go and just choose the best one of the 5 men who are pursuing you? Or do you send them all packing and wait for someone who can satisfy more of the list or all of it? That is the dilemma for women when it comes to finding a mate. Now, if you choose to wait around for that perfect guy or for the guy who can satisfy your list, that's fine. But the clock is ticking. Your youth and your beauty is on a clock. So while you are waiting, you are depreciating. Oh, so you're saying we should settle. I'm not saying you should do anything. I'm just saying be mindful of that. You may wait around and find the perfect guy that you like, and you may choose him, but just remember he has to choose you back. Now, my pie, I listened to your video and you made some very good points. You actually argued your side very well. And if you were in a court of law, you perhaps would win the case. But the thing is, a relationship isn't a court case. So, like, even if you argue your side very well, that still doesn't mean that a guy is going to agree with you. Now, when we look at these successful black women who are being left single, there will be a common thread running through them. And we need to figure out what that is. And I'm going to tell you right now, when we find out what it is, it's not going to be a positive thing. If you want something and you can't get it, there is no positive reason for that. The reason is going to be negative. I've heard some women say, and they'll say it like they're proud of it, well, he can't handle me, or they can't handle me, that's why they don't go for me. That's not a positive thing. That's not a positive reason why a guy doesn't want you. And if you're wondering whether it's positive or not, there's a great big old can't right in the middle of it. You can't handle me. Another one, he's intimidated by my success. That's a negative thing. Intimidated is a negative word. Make yourself less intimidating, whatever that means. But anyway, back to the point I was making a second ago. When we find out what the common thread is between all these black women who are very successful yet single, the first thing I said about that is that whatever it is, it's not going to be positive. And the second thing I'm going to say about that, it may be something that other races of women can get away with. Now, everybody does self-appraisal. That is, they look at themselves and what they have and what they've accomplished, and they rate themselves on how good a catch they think they are. Now, let's say the scale goes from 1 to 100, and I'll just use the women in the video on Oprah. They rate themselves pretty high, because, I mean, they got Benzes and educations and their own house and their own this and that. They would probably rate themselves as 90s or 95s or even 100s. Whereas a man, when they look at them looking for what they want, they may only be a 50. These women may be over-appraising themselves. Let's say you have a guy who looks like this. Now, most guys who look like this know they look like this. But some guys who look like this think they really look like this. Now, I'm sure we all seen a man who thinks he looks better than he really does. But when he goes to approach a woman, they let him know, you don't look like this, you look like that, and I'm not interested in you. So the moral of that story is, no, it's not that black women are ugly. The point is, you may have all this stuff like degrees and houses and cars, and you may think that that makes you a great catch. So you may put yourself way up here like at a 90 or a 95, but when a guy looks at you and sees what he's looking for, he may only see you as a 50 or a 40 or a 30. You need to figure out what your true number is, and then you can act accordingly. You can either do stuff to make your number go up, or you can say, well, fuck it, I'm not changing. If you don't want to change anything about yourself, then that's fine. But then don't go on Oprah wondering why you can't get a man. You're a 30 who thinks she's a 90. And again, I'm not just talking about looks, even though looks are part of it. It's your total package as a woman and a potential wife. What are you worth to a man as a wife? All I'm saying is, don't let your accomplishments and your material things think that you're worth more than you are. A woman doesn't need all that stuff to be a good wife. A man wants a wife to be a companion. So are you a good companion? Are you pleasant to be around? A man wants a wife so he can have kids. Are you going to make a good mother? Do you even want to have kids? You can be a great wife and a great mother without having a single degree. So stop putting so much stock in these degrees and these houses and these cars that you own. Now, getting back to something My Pie said, you said in your video that you need to have your education for you in case your man hits a midlife crisis and decides to divorce you for a younger woman. Well, that is a risk that you take when you get married, but a couple of things you should think about. Number one, okay, let's say you get your education, but then you stay home to raise his kids for 15, 18 years. If he divorces you after 15 or 20 years of you being at home just tending to the house or whatever you were doing, if you're looking to get back into whatever field you went to school for after being gone for 15 or 20 years, you're probably going to have to get some kind of recertification or something to catch up on the times. So you might have to go back to school anyway. Second of all, unless you're in a field where you definitely have to have a degree like being a doctor or a teacher or something like that, then you might not even have to go to school to work in that field. Or if you're going to be like a business owner or something, you definitely don't have to go to school for that. So having a college degree isn't the end all be all that it used to be. There are lots of successful people who never went to college. And another thing is, if he decides he wants to lose his mind and go chase some young 20-year-old chick and leave you, that's what alimony is for. I'm not saying you can live off of it or that you can live off of it forever, but the law doesn't allow for a man to just walk away from his wife of X number of years and just leave her with nothing. So just to recap, a college degree isn't all it used to be, and if you're out of the field for like 15, 20 years, you're probably going to have to get some kind of recertification or re-education anyway, and if he does leave you, there's alimony. Then another thing you said in your video, could the reason be that there just aren't enough men and that women are outperforming men or whatever? Yes, it very well could be, which is even more reason for you to be asking, what does a guy want? Men are in the minority, so they can be more picky. Well, depending on what their number is, because if a male is a 30, then he can't be as choosy as a man who's a 90. But I'm talking about a guy that you'd actually want, like a 90 or a 95. He can afford to be very picky. So if you want him, you have to be what he wants. You have to be something that's going to catch his eye. And that's another thing. Some women say, I don't have a man because there aren't enough men. That's a negative reason. Not enough is negative. What are you going to do to remedy that? Not to make more men, but to make sure that you are one of the women who get a man. Well, there really is nothing you can do to guarantee that you'll get a man unless you like buy him or something, but there's things you can do to make yourself more likely to get one than other women. And that's what I'm talking about. Now, something else you mentioned in your video, that older men have to compete with younger men. Now, when I said older, I was talking about 35, 40, 45. I'm not talking about people over 50 and up into their 60s. I'm talking about people who are still young, but they've still been in their career for X number of years, so they've had a chance to work up and build a little bit of security and wealth. Men like that are going to be more attractive to a woman than a guy who's 25 or so, who just got out of college, still has student loans, and hasn't been working at his company but like maybe a couple of years. It takes time to build up wealth and security, so I don't think these older men, and again I mean like 35, 40, 45, are having a hard time with competing with 20-year-olds. You said in your video that education is not the problem, and I agree. It's not the education itself that's the problem. The problem is that depending on what degree you're going for, it can take up 6 or 7 or 8 years of your life when you're at your prime physically. And like I said before, your youth and beauty is on a clock. Now, you asked me a question about me. You said when I was on those dating sites and the older men contacted me, did I respond back? Hell yeah. And actually, if my channel lasts long enough, I'll start to show myself in the video. And I'll share more of my life with everybody. But first I have to see how long my channel is going to last. Well, that about does it for my response to your video. If you feel I missed something, then just bring it back up to me. Otherwise, if you have something else to say, then bring that up, and then I'll respond to that, and we'll just keep talking until we figure something out. Alright, talk to you later.